start off with a letter. The letter I'm using is the letter S using a font called Sync. Make the letter quite large to begin with while we create the flat fractal effect. Right click the letter and select Create Outlines. This will convert the text layer into a shape layer. Next, select the line tool from the toolbar or select it using the / shortcut key. Draw a vertical line which exceeds the size of your letter. Holding down the Shift key whilst dragging out the line will ensure it stays 100% straight. Place the line to the left of your letter. You can do this quickly by first selecting the line, then selecting the letter whilst holding down the Shift key. Once the letter is selected loose, the Shift key and click on the letter once more. This will make the letter the key object and will be highlighted in a thicker selected line. Using the alignment panel, select Horizontal Align Left and then Vertical Align Center. If you don't see or have the Align panel, simply go to Window and select Align. Next, select the line and hold down the Alt and Shift key whilst dragging to make a duplicate. Drag the duplicated line to the other side of the letter. To ensure the line lines up with the end of the letter, you can follow the same steps as we did previous, only this time selecting Horizontal Align Right. Now using the Blend tool, which is shortcut W, select the first line, then simply select the second line. This will create a blend between the two. From the toolbar, double click on the blend tool icon to bring up the options window, change the spacing to specified steps and use a value of 4. Lock it in by pressing OK. You should have 6 lines. Using the selection tool, select the blend, then navigate to Object, Blend, Expand. Now using the selection tool, which is shortcut V on the keyboard, drag a selection around both the lines and the letter, move them to one side, then holding down the Alt and Shift key, drag a duplicate to the other side so you have a second copy. On the duplicated version, double click the lines to go into isolation mode, then delete the end line. Exit isolation mode, then select the lines and the letter together, making sure the letter is the key object, then horizontally center the lines. Now open the Pathfinder panel by going to Window, Pathfinder, make a selection around both the original letter and lines and apply the divide option. Doing this will divide the letter into vertical strips, however there is some cleanup work we need to do. Select the letter and go to Object, Ungroup All, then select the Direct Selection tool using the shortcut A on the keyboard. Drag a selection around the empty space where the first line was and you'll see it will highlight a random empty path. To select them all, go to Select Same Fill Color. This will select all the empty paths. It may also select the lines on the other letter. If this is the case, then simply hold down the Shift key and deselect them. Once you're confident everything has been selected, hit the Delete key to remove the empty paths. What you should be left with is a clean letter split into vertical sections. What we need to do now is group up the vertical sections where they are split into 2 or more sections. For example, if you look at the first vertical split, it will be made up of 2 parts. Go through them, select them, and go to Object, Group to group them together. You should end up with 5 complete vertical shapes. Repeat the same process with your second letter. Once both letters are cleaned up and the individual segments are grouped, using the selection tool, select one of them and make note of its width. Copy the width to the clipboard, then open the Align panel by going to Window, Align. Now, make a selection around all the shapes which make up the first letter, then click on one of the segments to make it the key object. You'll see the key object by its thicker border. With the key object selected, go to the Align panel and where it says Distribute Spacing, paste in the width of the segment. If you don't see the Distribute Spacing option, select the 3 lines in the corner of the panel and select Show Options. Now select the icon next to it, which is the Horizontal Distribute Space button. Once you click this, the segments of the letter should separate evenly. Make a selection around all the segments in the first letter and group them together by going to Object, Group. Repeat this process for the second letter, however the Distribute Spacing option should be pre-filled with the size. You should be left with 2 objects that are their own groups. Now select both groups and use the horizontally and vertically align center options. While both shapes are still selected, it will be a good idea to resize and make them a bit smaller. Finally, once everything has been centered, ungroup all the layers by going to Object, Ungroup. We now need to create a freeform gradient which will form our light effects in the final design. For my gradient, I will be using a mixture of blues and pinks. Start off with the rectangle tool and drag out a rectangle which will cover both letter shapes. It's best to make the rectangle slightly larger, as this will allow us to tweak the positioning if we need to. Change the solid fill to a gradient fill, then change the gradient type to a freeform gradient. If you'd like to create a gradient from an image, you can watch one of my previous videos on mesh gradients in the card in the top right hand corner. Add points of colour to your rectangle until you're left with something you're happy with. Once you're happy with it, select the rectangle, then align it vertically and horizontally centre, making sure it covers your letters. Right-click the rectangle and select Arrange Center Back. In this next part, we need to convert each one of the letter segments into a compound path. To do this, select the first segment and go to Object, Compound Path and select Make. Repeat this for each segment. Next, we need to copy our rectangle to our clipboard so we can reuse it over again. Either select the rectangle and press Ctrl+C or right-click and select Copy. Select the first segment of your letter, hold down the Shift key and select the rectangle. Now right-click and select Make Clipping Mask. To get our rectangle shape back, we go to Edit, Paste in Place, or use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+V. With the rectangle still selected, right-click it and go to Arrange Center Back. Select the next segment and the rectangle, right-click and select Make Clipping Mask. Repeat this over and over again until all your segments are masked with the gradient. Now, you need to think about your background colour. Create a rectangle that fills your canvas using the rectangle tool. Make sure it's vertically and horizontally centre and fill it with your chosen colour. I'm going to be using a very dark grey colour with the hex value 161616. From within the Layers panel, just lock the background rectangle layer to stop it interfering with anything. Before we ungrouped all our segments, the segments were made up of two groups. We need to re-replicate this, otherwise the next few steps won't work. Start off by selecting the first segment, then hold the Shift key and select every other segment and group them together. Whatever segments are left will be your second group, so select each one and group them together. We're now going to add an inner glow effect. Select the first group, then go to Effect Stylize Inner Glow. For the mode, keep it as normal and make sure the colour is set to the same colour as your background colour. In my case, I used 161616. Set the opacity to 100% with a blur of 15 pixels. Make sure the centre option is checked and uncheck the preview, then lock it in with the OK button. Once the effect has been applied, save your work as Illustrator has a tendency to crash. Once saved, go up to Effect and select Inner Glow, but from the top part of the menu. You'll then be prompted with a message applying another instance of this effect. Click Apply New Effect. Change the mode to Overlay with the colour white. Change opacity down to 15% with a blur amount of 7 pixels. Lastly, change from centre to edge. We can now copy and paste the effects to the other group. To do this, make sure your first group of segments is selected. This will be the one we just applied the effects to. From within the Layers panel, you'll see a little circle at the end of the layer. Hold down the Alt key, then click and drag onto your second group. This will copy the effects over. We're now going to add some light effects, and this is done in a really simple way. Select the ellipse tool and drag out a big ellipse onto your artboard. Change over the solid fill to a gradient fill using a radial gradient. For the colour stops, make sure you have one at 0%, one at 100% and one at 50%. For the 0% colour stop, use one of your colours from your gradient. The other two colour stops need to be set to black. Make sure the colour radiates from the centre of your ellipse. Now from within the transparency panel, change the blend mode to Colour Dodge with an opacity of 75%. Make sure the ellipse is at the top of your layer stack, then position it over a similar colour on your letter segments. I find the best results are when the ellipse is not directly over the top, but rather just on the outside of the segments. Feel free to resize the ellipse, duplicate it and change the colour. And that completes the coloured fractal glass effect. You should now have a clean layered result with subtle lighting and depth. all built directly in Illustrator. Try this technique with different fonts or colour palettes to see how far you can push the effect. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more graphic design tips and tricks. Give the video a like if you found this tutorial useful, and as always, until next time, I'll see you all in the next one.